Hello. Today we are going to see a game between former chess world champion Mikhail Tal, who was the eighth world champion, amazingly tactical and very, very complicated games, mostly causing his opponents to think a long time, many times reaching almost all the time, using all the time on the clock, and even that some of his tactical combinations were not absolutely correct. It was very difficult to find the holes in his calculation over the board. And he won many beautiful games, and I hope in the future to show you more games of Tal. So he is playing with white, and his opponent is Georgy Lisitsin. We already saw a game of Lisitsin. He was a chess master from Leningrad, played many times in the final of the Russian championship, which was one of the strongest chess tournament in the world. This game was played in 1956. He was already 47 years old, so after his prime, but still a very strong player. He was also a chess writer, wrote books about opening, about strategy, about tactics, and endgame theory. So let's start to see this game. While white opens with e4, and black answers c5, the first moves of the Sicilian opening. Knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight f3, knight c3, and now g6. This is the first move of the dragon variation in the Sicilian opening. So you already know that openings have names, like the dragon, like the Sicilian opening, like the dragon variation in the Sicilian. And the game continues. f4, knight e6, and now white exchanges the knights. Let's see what happens if black continues mechanically with bishop g7, which is the normal move of the dragon variation. But here, before we put the knight on c6, it is very dangerous because we can advance the pawn to e5. And if black changes, and we go to g4 with the knight, attacking twice this pawn, white can play bishop b5, check. We prevent, we defend. And now even white can play e6. Notice that this knight now is not defended by the bishop. The bishop, of course, can take the b5 bishop, but then we'll take the pawn, and the king will have to take it back and lose the option of castling. So, and if we take this, black just loses a piece. So it's not a good idea. So black played correctly, knight c6, and white exchanges one set of knights. Knight takes, c6 takes the knight, b6 takes the knight, e5, knight d7, e takes d6, e takes d6, bishop e3, bishop e7, queen f3, d5, and queen castles. Castles on the queen side. This position has been reached quite a lot of times. I think maybe 30 games in my database, but this game is the only one that black answered the queen, the castling by bishop f6. The only game. In most games, white castles on the king side or played knight f6. So those are the two moves. This is the only game that black played bishop f6. And of course, because it's a game of Tal, many players know this game. So after playing bishop f6, white can think about his next moves. Should he develop the white bishop that is still undeveloped and then connect his rooks, or he can diminish the influence of the black pieces by playing bishop d4. So this bishop was quite strong, but we can interfere with the range of influence of the bishop. So black castles, and white immediately starts the attack on the king side. h4, rook b8, this move seizes the open file, the b file, and just to demonstrate what happens if black captures the pawn. It's not a free gift. If black takes the pawn, queen goes to rooks to h3, attacking this bishop. Now, how can you defend it? If the bishop moves, black gets immediately checkmated on h7. So g5, g3, the bishop is trapped. Knight b3, attacking the queen, of course. And now after f5, there is nothing more to do. The bishop will be lost. Now the h7 pawn is guarded by the knight, but the bishop is lost and the game is, the position is really terrible. Okay, so rook goes to b8 and grabs this open file. And now queen goes to f2. One moment. Yes. Queen goes to f2. Now the bishop is defended twice by the rook and by the queen. Because if we look at the position before, let's say just making another move like bishop e2, bishop could take, rook could take, and now there is a double threat on the rook and on the b2 pawn, which is very dangerous, and we have no good solution how to defend both of them. So queen f2 guards the bishop, and rook goes to b4, giving place to the queen to enter the queen side and attack white's king. And now, again, it's a mistake to take the pawn. White correctly judges the position and exchanges the bishop. This was a very strong piece, and now it's eliminated. And knight takes the bishop. Let's just see what happens if bishop takes the pawn. So queen a5, bishop returns to e3, rook takes the pawn on b2, king takes, bishop takes the knight. Now king bishop 1, king to c1, rook queen a3 check, and checkmate. So don't grab pawns in the beginning. Think about the dangers. You see that the queen is immensely strong if it manages to reach on time. So knight takes f6, and now we go a3. a3, again, if you choose to take the pawn with the queen, queen could go to d6, attacking the pawn. Let's protect it. Again, rook takes the pawn on b2, king takes the rook, queen b4, king b1, queen takes the knight, and black is a strong attack for a mere exchange, a rook for the knight. And just for an example, let's say, what can white do now? Anyway, the threat is queen to a1. Let's just say that we connect the rook and play bishop e3, d3. Let's see what the engine suggests. Bishop g4, rook d to e1, bishop f3, rook h to g1, and bishop e4. Concentrating all the pieces on the attack, it will be very bad for white. So again, don't grab the pawns. It's not always a free gift. So a3, and now queen goes to b6. You cannot take the rook because the queen is undefended. So queen takes the queen, and rook takes the queen. We are now on move 18, and now white plays knight a4. There is a saying, it's not always true, Knight on the rim is dim, so not always recommended to put the knight on the edge of the board. In this specific position, 19th move, maybe the move bishop e2 to connect the rooks and develop the bishop would be better, but it's not so sure. So the rook returns to b7, and now finally the bishop goes to d3, developing the last piece, connecting the rooks. The material is even. White is not sure, is not standing badly. Maybe taking this open file on E with rook E1 could be better, but bishop D3 is also okay. Now black takes the same idea of the knight on the edge, but in this move he attacks the f4 pawn. So now we are on move 20, and the king rook h to f1, and rook to e7. By the way, also here, maybe just an idea, knight c5 could be an idea because the rook is attacked, the knight comes closer to the center of the board, and after rook e7, you can advance with f5. So if the bishop takes, you exchange bishop and you destroy the white pawn structure, the black pawn structure. So it could be an idea. Anyway, rook h f1 and rook e7. Now white does f5 anyway. G takes f5, it doesn't want to change the bishops, and rook f e1. So black pawn's structure is indeed very bad, not a good idea, but we are seeing a game of the world champion on his almost top level. So let's see what he does with this position. First, the rook is attacked, so we have to protect it. Rook f to e8. And now white exchanges the rook, black takes back. So we approach the endgame. So in the endgame, you have to put the king in the center where he can show his strengths. So king goes to d2. And knight goes to g3. Again, centralizing the pieces, protecting the f5 pawn, and now king c3. He will eventually attack the pawn on the queen side. f4, king d4, bishop f5. And white goes rook d2. By the way, just an idea, maybe bishop to g4 would be stronger, because you can protect it with the pawn, it attacks the rook, but black saw that if he exchanges the bishops, he will be in a favorable endgame. So rook d2, and now we are on the 28th move. Black played rook e6. Again, just think about the move king g7 with the threat king g6. Let's see, for example, king g7, knight c3, knight e4, bishop takes, pawn takes, and black has a very strong pawn center in the already in the 5th row. The e4 pawn is a passed pawn. He can advance. No one can do anything. No pawn can do anything against him. Okay, black played rook e6. Now, knight c5 attacking the rook. Rook goes to h6, attacking the pawn. And king e5. Attacking both the bishop. The bishop is already threatened once, defended only once, so something has to be done. And black decides to exchange the bishops. So bishop takes, he takes, and rook takes the pawn. King d6. So white has a problem, black has a problem how to defend those pawns. And first move rook h6, king c7. The target is, of course, the a7 pawn. And now knight f5, king b7. Nothing can be done with the a7 pawn. And knight d4. Rook f2. And now we are move 35. Black plays a5, which is a mistake. Of course, he wanted to protect the pawn, but the pawn is doomed. So much better would be a move like rook h2. Why? Because after rook h2, rook takes the pawn, knight e6, attacking both knight and rook. Knight, rook g4, attacking the king, king f8. Knight takes e6, check, and after f takes e6, the position is equal. After white will take the pawn, both sides will have 4 pawns. It should be a draw. After a5, seemingly protecting the pawn, white takes the f4 pawn and he's almost winning. Knight e6, rook g4, check, king f8, king takes e6, c6, and knight takes knight, king takes knight. In this position, before knight takes knight, you could think about the move king e7. Again, putting the king in the center. But after knight takes knight, king takes knight, it's true the material is equal. Every side has 4 pawns, but the white position is much better. Anyway, after exchanging the knight, king takes the knight. Rook e6 was played. King takes d5. Rook b6 attacking the b2 pawn. b4. A takes, a takes. King e7. Now white has a pawn advantage. 3 pawns against 2 pawns. King c5. Rook f6. Rook d4. Rook f5. King c6. Rook f6. King c7. Rook f5. Rook e4. King f6. King c6 to advance the pawn. Rook f2. g4, protecting the g2 pawn. h5. G takes. King goes to g5. b5. f5. Rook b4 to protect the pawn from behind. f4. b6. f3. b7, and in this position, black resigned. By the way, I told you in the beginning that this opening has a name, the dragon variation of the Sicilian. But this special opening after e5 and d7, knight d7, is called the Levenfish variation of the dragon variation of the Sicilian. So Levenfish. Levenfish was also a very strong Russian master. Was born in the late 19th century and was a very strong player in the between 1910 and 1930. Won games against Emanuel Lasker, world champion. Won games against other world champions, and was a very strong master, international master, and also a theorist in the opening of the chess. I hope that you enjoyed the game. It was a first game of Mikhail Tal. I really hope to record many games because they are amazingly beautiful games, full of imagination.